Okay. Mm. Okay. First thing is, whenever you are trying to mimic me, try to mimic me completely. నేను చెప్పింది చేయాలనుకుంటే పూర్తిగా చేయండి, సగం చేయొద్దు. Okay. So my approach works when you install Jenkins as a service. The document which you see, you will basically be what it is installing Jenkins as a Linux service on that machine. Whenever you deploy Jenkins as a var, that is running on a Jetty server by default. So in both, I think I've told the stuff also. Jetty is not the right thing to do. That is just for dev kind of a stuff. And basically you have to install it on application server like Tomcat. So in that case, Tomcat user will be your Jenkins user. You have to give permissions to the Tomcat user. Similarly, if you deploy Jenkins onto JBoss, for when you install JBoss, you'll get one user. You need to, the permission should be given to that user. Okay. So that was a very old approach. No one is using that right now. Okay. So that is used only for quick wins. So for example, you want to just check how the stuff of Jenkins is. So you will do that using java -jar jenkins.var or something like that. That is only for quick wins. That is for test setup of Jenkins. Okay. Whatever you are seeing in the document, I think the 404 error might come only for Maven, because Maven has changed its path. And whatever error which you have got, if you have googled it, you would have found the solution already. There is a new link for Maven, that's it. Okay. Apart from that, I don't think so any place there is any place where the document fails. Okay. And Sai Reddy has tried to git clone on a Windows machine. Just check whether Windows is added to the path or not. Okay. So basically, please try doing it on a Linux machine. Windows have not done it, right? There is a reason for that, because Windows is generally not used as a Jenkins server. It is used as a Jenkins slave. It is used as a Jenkins slave in most of the cases, and we'll be using it in the same way, right? But but there is no problem in doing that. But if you want to do that in a right sense, there is something called as installing Jenkins on Windows. You have to install it. So then Jenkins becomes a service like what it has happened on Linux. That's the way to use it. All right. So I will be using Jenkins on a Windows machine just to see how the UI looks like, because I need to set up something. I'll be executing. I have installed Java on my machine. I'll be executing java -jar jenkins.var, and I will be getting the whole stuff. Okay. And one more thing, whenever you install Jenkins, is please do run it as administrator. Okay. If you don't run it as administrator on any machine which is uh, Windows 7 might not give you that issues, but later on Windows 7 could also give, because C drive is considered to be a secure drive now. So anything which you want to change in the folders which you have not created, for example, C program files, C Windows System 32, it will say that you need to have administrative permissions to change anything over here. So that could be also an issue. So whenever you are using in Windows, please do run it as an administrator. So how do you run it as an administrator? Open command prompt or a PowerShell as an administrator, and in there run java -jar jenkins.var. But java -jar jenkins.var is just for testing. It is never used in companies like that. Okay. So on your local machine, if you want to simulate Jenkins, you'll use that. Fine. Okay. Okay. The complaints, I'll take it at the last. We have technical stuff to be covered, right? Managerial issues will Prakash, I'll speak about it at the end. Okay. Okay. Fine. So oh, what is it we have done in the last class? We have taken a Jenkins server, And in that Jenkins server, we have built some Java application, right? And then we have basically looked into the test results, and also we have archived the artifact. All right. So now this is a very simple deployment pipeline. Okay, this will be there in any organization, or this is there in many organizations. All right. And the other thing which I have said is day build and night build concept, where you have to schedule, where you have to schedule. Fine. Now what we would look into is, we will be doing the same activity, but in the new way of Jenkins. The same day build configuration in a new way of doing it, where Jenkins want to basically go to that point. Jenkins want to go to that point, and that new way is called as a pipeline. Okay, and what is this pipeline? Why is it required? In Jenkins, whenever you want to achieve anything, you have to search for a plugin. You have to search for a plugin. Okay, and if the plugin is not found, you will be using execute shell in the mode whatever we have discussed yesterday, execute shell or execute batch file, and then you will be writing the stuff over there. But how many plugins can we eventually develop? That will become uncontrollable. Okay, so what Jenkins have thought of is, rather than using it like this, why don't I configure Jenkins as a script? Why don't I configure Jenkins as a script? And this script is nothing but what we call as a pipeline. In this, we'll be using a language called as Groovy. Okay, but don't worry about anything. You don't need to know much about it. But since it is Groovy, if you know Java, you can do wonders there. You can do anything there. Okay, even if you don't know anything about Java, you can do 80% there. The difference is the 20%. All right, fine. Now what is an advantage is, let us assume that I have to build the game of life. Okay, how to build game of life? Where is that I am configuring? In Jenkins, right? Tomorrow I want to do the same configuration on another server, then okay, so you have to recreate. Or at the last I have said that there is something called as import and export job, but import and export job is not 100% guaranteed that it would work. Okay, so we need some approach where it will be very easy for you to build your project on any Jenkins machine. That was the whole concept. Okay, so this thought gave birth to something called as pipeline, Jenkins pipeline. In Jenkins pipeline, we use Groovy script. For the people who have heard Groovy for the first time, Groovy is a Java based language. Okay, it internally uses Java. The whatever you write in Groovy will be converted into Java instruction at the end of the day. All right, so fine. Now let us go ahead and launch our Jenkins server. Okay, and try to do the same game of life day build in this pipeline. Okay, and I'll be making a slight change to the way which we do it. All right, so okay. Okay. Same stuff, right? We have done this. Now I want to do the game of life day builds, but this time I want to basically use it as a new way of Jenkins, which is called as pipeline. All right. So what I have to do doesn't change. I'll be taking the git clone from game of life builds, and then I'll be executing mvn package. Okay. And then basically I'll be archiving the artifacts, and then I'll be archiving the test results. Exactly, these were the 4 steps which I've tried last time. So my steps don't change now. I'm going to use the same thing, but this time in a new syntax. Okay. And once we finish it, I will tell you what is the use of it. All right. So new item, and this time I'm selecting the not a freestyle project but a pipeline project. So I'll be calling it as game of life pipeline day. This is the same thing. We have not seen much of a difference over here. You will write a description, and then you will basically see what you want to do. So now build triggers, build periodically, and I think we have written at the rate. Okay, fine. Here you don't see any other options. You see something called as pipeline for the rest of the things. Okay, you will not have build step. You will not have post build step. You will not have anything. You will just have pipeline. Okay, so trigger is still the old way. Description anyway will be the old way. Description is not a very decent thing to look after. So in this you need to write some script. In this you need to write some script which will help you in building the project. Okay, fine. So this script, okay, will start from something called as node. This script will always have something called as node. So node is on which machine do you want to execute this job? As of now we have only one, so I can safely write node. But if you have hundreds of machines, you can also tell which machine you want to execute. You can just say node of label. So every server will have a label. But as of now, not required, because we have only one server and it doesn't make sense to think of labeling also. That we will do it in the later classes, right? So node will allocate this job onto one of the Jenkins machines. In this case, it will allocate on the same machine because we have only one Jenkins server, right? So now in this you need to write what are the things which you need to do. There are two ways of looking at it. One is you can learn Groovy. Other thing is you can generate this. You can generate this. At least try learning generating. At least try learning the generation, which is very simple. But to generate this stuff, you should know how you have done it in a freestyle project. To generate this, you should know how you have done it in the freestyle project. So now let me scroll down a bit, and you will be seeing something called as a pipeline syntax. Just open that. So what was my first step? I've used git clone. So are you seeing anything with respect to git over here? Git. And in the git you might have given, what is it? Game of life. This is the path, right? I'll copy this. Yeah. Scroll down and then say just generate pipeline script. This is what the Groovy script for whatever UI which you have generated. Okay. So rather than using that UI, we'll be writing this line. Okay. So now you'll go over here and blindly just simply copy and paste this. Okay. Fine. While you are copying and pasting this, what a pipeline also suggests you to do is break your activities into different stages. So what is a stage? A group of steps, a logical group of steps. So in your build, what is the first thing which we need to do? We need to get the code from GitHub, and then we need to execute Maven steps, and then archive the artifact. So shall I divide this into 3 steps? Yeah. The first step, or the first stuff which I do is I would call it as stage. Okay. So even if you want, you can go and use stage here, and you can tell what is the stage name. So my stage name is let me put it as version control system. You generate the pipeline script. So this is how you write it. Okay. So for anything, this will give you the help. So I'm using the same thing over here. Stage of, okay, SCM. Fine. In this, you can write as many steps as you want. But for me, it is only one step, which is Git. Now, the next stage is build. I'll tell you why do we do this. Okay. So next stage is build and package. Okay. So here I need to execute MVN package. So let me go over here and see if there is anything called as MVN. No. So if you don't find anything, go to execute the shell script. And here you write what is your shell script. MVN. Are you getting this? Not a very great thing or not a very difficult thing if you know what you are doing. If you don't know what you are doing, this would look completely complicated. So I'll go over here and then I'll do this. Okay. And then the last stage, I will call it as results. Okay. In this, we have archived the artifacts and shown the test results. Right. So here, archive artifacts. Okay. And what is that we have written? Let me do one thing. Let me open that job. I don't remember those paths. Sorry for that. I'll go to the configure, post build actions. Yeah. Archive the artifacts is this, right? So I'll go over here and I would say this. Fine. So now we have one more thing left, which is archiving the test results. For archiving the test results, what is that we have done? Game of life -web and all of that. So let me copy this path. Okay. So rather than archiving the artifact, you will see something called as JUnit. In JUnit, just use this, say generate pipeline reports, and you would get the same thing. You are not doing anything different. You are just trying to generate the code rather than using the UI directly. Now, is a difficult job? Okay. But if you don't know what you have done in the last steps, this is absolutely nothing. You might not be able to make out what I am doing over here. Okay. The stage, whatever we have written there, is you can break it down into as many stages as you want, or you can choose to have just one stage. But having multiple stages makes sense. Having multiple stages makes sense because your build is generally not one activity, it is multiple activities. Tomorrow, let us assume you want to execute Selenium test cases, then you will have one more stage. These 3 stages are already there, and then for Selenium test, you will have one more stage. For some other kind of testing like load testing or any other testing, one more stage. For code quality checking, one more stage. So you will basically logically divide your build steps into multiple stages. Right? Looking good? Okay. So what I do is, first I'll copy this and put it in a notepad. I'll tell you what is the reason for that. No, this notepad is nonsense. So let me go with notepad plus plus. Okay, so this is what we have written. I'm just pasting it over here. Okay, first thing is I want to check whether this works or not. Yes, so let me save the project and then say build now. See what is happening. Are you seeing anything any different now? Yeah, so you will get stage. For every stage you will get timings, and it's just not timings. You can see logs of the stages also. There is no need for you to get into console output and see what is happening. You will get everything over here. Okay, and now just the same thing over here. So what are your results? You will get a view of everything. And similarly, this has happened in 110 milliseconds. Right, now you go ahead and do a build now. Again, that was the second build. Right, see, for every build to build, it would try to tell you what is the timing, what are the logs. So this is called as a stage view. So we will break our steps because anything logical we want to see it over here. Okay, you not only get what was the output, you will also get the average timing which it is taking. So throughout the builds, a very decent view, right? And I will also speak about some new project which Jenkins is working on, not very much adopted in the enterprise, which is called as Blue Ocean. Blue Ocean is a UI way of looking at this pipeline. How does this your pipeline look at in the UI? That is a Blue Ocean project. But all of this is result of whatever we have used. Okay, which is simple pipeline. Right. Till now, good. Yeah. Now I said that I'll be doing one thing differently this time. Right. So what I do is this game of life project. Right. Uh, let me put it in a square zone itself. Yeah. Okay. So what I'm doing is I'm just trying to create the same game of life in my account so that I can change it. Okay. So this is my game of life project. Now, since it is Git, I will go to some folder. Let me use G drive. Okay. I think we were using E drive Git practice for everything, right? So let me use the same thing. Git for practice. Okay. Not interested in this game of life anymore. Before I do this, that has to be deleted. Yeah, wonderful. I'll take questions after this step so that you will understand why pipeline is important. Done. So CD game of life. Okay. Now in this game of life, I'm going to create a new file which is called as Jenkins file. So what is the file's name? See the casing also, very important. All right. Do this. Now game of life, Jenkins file, edit with notepad. Okay. Whatever I have copied in the last step, I'll be pasting it over here with only one change. What is the change? My GitHub path is no longer this. Yes. Okay. Whatever I'm supposed to do in Jenkins pipeline, I'm creating a file called as Jenkins file, and in that I'm pasting it. Yes. Yeah. Now let me save this and submit these changes. Git status, git add Jenkins file, git commit -m added Jenkins. Okay. Git. You can use origin and master. I'm not using because both are defaults. Okay. So we got this. Now let me go to my Jenkins for whatever project which I have done here. Okay. What I would do is I would create a new project now, which does exactly the same thing. So our game of life day builds, game of life pipeline day, and then I'll create a new project called as game of life new pipeline, or let me put it in, let me make it self-explanatory. Name new way. Okay. I'll call it as a pipeline project. I'll click on OK. Yeah. Oh, already exists. Strange. Okay. Game of life pipeline new. Okay. Simple. The only thing which I need to configure is build triggers, build periodically, whatever it is. Okay. At the rate. Okay. If I want to build every hour. Okay. Or else I'll be using that 5-star syntax to schedule what is the time of the day. And now see advanced project options. I was using what? Pipeline script. Now you see what I would use. Pipeline script from SCM. SCM is your source code path. Then you will say, where is your source code? My source code is in Git. Okay. And where is your Git URL? My Git URL is over here. Okay. And where is your Jenkins file? Jenkins file, if you have named it like this, there is no need for you to change anything. But you can use any file name. If you use a different file name, you can use that name. But I would recommend just follow this naming convention, because by looking at this file, everyone will come to know that you have written some Jenkins pipeline script over there. That's it. Now in this project, am I configuring anything? I'm just giving path. Okay. Any build changes, where will I change now? In my Git. So every change that is going into Jenkins is also version control. Avuna? If I want to change anything in a Jenkins file, I want to change anything in the build, where do I need to change it? I need to change it in my Git repository. And whenever I change it in my Git repository, will it not become a commit? Yes. But if you use UI way of doing it, how will you know what were your previous versions of Jenkins? When you started your project, how you used to build the code. Okay. Later on, what are the different changes which you have brought in? That was not possible at all. But now, if you go to the Jenkins file way, okay, you can also monitor what are the different build changes which you have done. For example, initially you might be doing MVN package. Okay. And later on, you have decided that you would be moving to Gradle. Jenkins need not know anything now. The only thing Jenkins should know is where is your Jenkins file. What your build has to do, everything is in your Jenkins file. So let me do save. Okay. Exactly the same thing, but a new way of looking at things. There is no need for you to put everything in Jenkins. You can put the Jenkins file in your code repo and still make it work. This is what industry wants. The whole reason or benefit of going to pipeline is this. Okay. For example, for one customer, I want to have a different build. He wants me to execute more test cases. I will create a branch called as customer branch. In that, I'll be changing Jenkins file. Okay. One customer doesn't want me to test. Create a branch. just to do mvn package minus d skip dot test equal to true. So basically the whole point which I'm trying to tell is whatever you were doing in the Jenkins, now you do at your code itself. Okay, and remember, this code will not be done by developers. This Jenkins file is DevOps responsibility. This Jenkins file is DevOps responsibility, right? So during the night build, okay, let us assume that during for night builds you take a different branch, a stable branch. So if you want to execute Selenium tests in the Jenkins file, make changes to execute Selenium tests. During day builds, you might use a different branch. There in the Jenkins file, it will not tell anything about Selenium. And now you have no dependency on Jenkins server. Tomorrow, if I ask you to create this project on a new Jenkins server, very simple. Just create a project and give your Git path. Yes. So have you seen the evolution? Initially, everything was very much, when we started on the last Saturday, we were very much relying on UI. Okay. Then I said that we want to use the pipeline. Good, pipeline we have written it, but still pipeline was in Jenkins. Now I have taken the pipeline from Jenkins and put it in my repository. Okay, so this is the best way of dealing with Jenkins. Have you seen all these three ways? This is the new way which Jenkins wants you to do. Not many companies are here. Whatever we have done on a Friday or Saturday is what many companies are. They still use UI, they still use plugins, they go with all sorts of this thing. But eventually, next 2 or 3 years, all the projects might be this. All right. So did you understood all the three ways of looking at Jenkins? First is UI, completely UI. Go with plugins, do everything in the UI. Next was the pipeline, not so UI, but still it is in Jenkins. Third one is nothing in Jenkins, everything in our code. Right. So that's the best advantage of pipeline. Okay. Last thing before I take questions, I'll click on configure. Not this. Manage Jenkins. Okay. Manage plugins. Available. Blue Ocean. This is where CloudBees want to take Jenkins pipeline to. All right. So this is also, I would say that this is not a new, this is very new, not used in enterprise yet, but Jenkins is pushing this very hard. Okay. You go to the jenkins.org site, you will see some link about Blue Ocean. Oh man, why it has failed? Okay, whatever it is. Let us wait. Let us wait. Okay. So this is Jenkins. I'm just clicking on open Blue Ocean. This is how your new way of Jenkins might look. Whatever you are seeing is a old UI, and this is the new UI which Jenkins want to take you. Okay. So you click on any project. Okay. So basically, we'll have the details over here. You'll get this view. Okay. So this was our pipeline. Okay. You'll get this view of your pipeline whenever you're writing. This is where Jenkins want to basically eventually move, probably in the next 1 or 2 years. Okay. So this is a beta project. They have given the first version out. but still not very stable. Sometimes you might see crashes and all of that stuff. But this is where what Jenkins is looking at. It's in the near future, your Jenkins might completely look like this. Okay. Now you will have all the stuff over here. You have to get used to this new way of looking at it. Okay. Tests. It will give you all the tests, artifacts. This was our JUnit test results, and this was our archive the artifacts. But you will see altogether a different UI. That's it. Yeah. Fine. Yes. This is still our old UI. Okay. You will still have that view, but Blue Ocean is a project which CloudBees as an organization is working very hard to push. Yeah. Fine. Okay. Now we have done the same thing 3 times. Okay. And your organization might do any of these 3. Your organization might use any of these 3. If they are starting the project newly, they would prefer pipeline, because you have seen what is an advantage. Your build steps are also in your code. Your build steps are also in your code. Once you have that, you can take it and build on any Jenkins. You need not really worry about a particular Jenkins server where you have all of the configuration. How do I take a backup of it and all the stuff? The only thing which you will lose when the Jenkins goes away right now is, as of now, is probably you might lose logs. But if you use a decent monitoring server, you can also push those logs to some other server. So a Jenkins server being down will no longer be as impactful as what is today if you go to this model. And now builds. Okay. So builds, as of now, we are archiving the artifacts, but very soon we'll be moving away from this and putting it into the artifactory server. So in Jenkins, we really don't have anything apart from the build steps, result of the build, and sending all of the stuff to the other machines. Okay, fine. Yes. Now ask whatever you have to. Okay, so let me now go to the stuff. So what was the last question? Yeah. I came across a variable h on cron job. Let me know how it differs from the, basically to tell, repeat it for every 15 minutes, or just to tell here they use h by 15 or something like that. Okay, that is just to tell the fractional stuff. That's it. How to create a Jenkins user? There is no need for you to create any Jenkins user. Whenever you install Jenkins as a service, you will be getting a Jenkins group. Okay, you can add basically any user to that group, but by default the user that was created is called as a Jenkins. That is something which happens automatically. There is no need for you to create anything. If it is not created, you are the Jenkins user. As simple as that. Whoever has installed Jenkins, you are the Jenkins user. All right. I am getting this error to access the game of life. ls remote -h. Sir, just check whether git clone and that path on your machine is working manually. Then you can think of this. Yeah. What is the main difference between freestyle and pipeline now? Freestyle heavily relies on Jenkins UI. Pipeline doesn't rely on Jenkins UI. In pipeline, you can have stages. In Jenkins, you will not have stages. Pipeline can be put in your at the place very nearest to your code. Whereas the Jenkins freestyle project, you can never put it near your code because it is always on the Jenkins server. Okay. You can, as an alternative, you can use import or export jobs, but that is a plugin. It is not from Jenkins. So it might work or might not work. Right. Every export job and when imported at the later point of time might not be successful. Okay. So, and in pipeline, all the changes are version controlled. Any change you do into your build steps are control, or because you will have a commit ID around it. That's the best part. How to move the project from one server to other server? What do you mean by moving the project from one server to other server? I didn't got the purpose. Can you elaborate? Ramesh, can you elaborate on what do you mean by moving the project from one server to other server? I think I can answer it, but if you tell me your context. Okay. So for me, as of now, I'm thinking it as copying the build. So I will call it as SCP step. A simple SCP step is what I am looking at. But if that was not your question, please elaborate. Where can I use pipeline instead of freestyle? Everywhere. Whatever you are doing in freestyle, can we move to pipeline? It's your choice now whether you want to do it or not is your choice. There is nothing like you can do it in freestyle and not do it in pipeline. No, you can do anything. Yeah. How to move job from one server to other server? Now there is no need for doing that. If you are using pipeline, if you are using pipeline, you have Jenkins file. So moving from one server to other server, there is no difference. You have to use the same stuff. Okay. And now, if it is an what do you say? If it is older way, there is a plugin called as import or export jobs. Install it, export a job, you will get an XML file and then import it. But remember, all the exports and imports might not be successful. Might not be successful. Okay. So if you want to move all the jobs to the other server, what will you do? Copy Jenkins home directory. What is Jenkins home directory in our installation? Var lib Jenkins. In your Windows machines, it might be in C users, your username, and there you might see something called as Jenkins folder. So it could be anywhere. Okay. Can you change the Jenkins home directory? Yes. How do you do that? Create an environment variable called as Jenkins underscore home and give any directory that will become your Jenkins. Is there any supported extension? Surya, please check. I'm not sure. I've never tried it because I never got a need for it to write it in a Visual Studio Code. Yeah, probably a decent question. Just check it whether you have an extension. I have not looked into that. Okay. For a new UI, what do you need to do? Can you please explore one? There is no need to worry about that as much as now because it is still in development. Blue Ocean is not a readily, what do you say, not all the features are not completed in Blue Ocean. You have decent amount of features, so you have to just wait for the time. That's it. All right. Yeah, how to move one job from one server to other server? I think I have answered this. If it is a pipeline, it is very simple. If it is non-pipeline stuff, you have to use a plugin called as import and export jobs and then take out your XML and then do it. Yeah. If we install any of the apps to Jenkins server, do we need to use that app user instead of Jenkins user? Actually, whenever you want to do it in an automated way, for whatever app which you have installed, give permissions to the Jenkins user rather than really moving to that user. So for example, I have installed some, let us assume Python. Okay. In my Jenkins build step, I need Python. And when I installed Python, I gave permissions only to the Ubuntu user, or by default, the permissions are given to the Ubuntu user itself. Now you are using automated way. So you have to give that to the Jenkins. You are doing an activity like sudo apt get update in your build step somewhere. So for that, your Jenkins user needs to be part of the sudo group. So you have to make efforts to add it. So we generally don't get out of Jenkins user. We try to give permissions to the Jenkins user whatever is required. All right. So whatever app, so any operating system, it is all about permissions. Okay. Add Jenkins user to that group. So for example, if you install Docker, okay, and you want Jenkins to use Docker, whenever you install Docker, you will be getting a group called as Docker. Okay, add a Jenkins user to the Docker group so that Docker can also use it. Jenkins can also use Docker. Those are the steps which you need to do. Not change the user from Jenkins to other way around. Fine. Yeah. How to move the job from? Wow, boy. This is the third time which I am trying to tell. There is a plugin called as import or export jobs. Please go into the plugins, get into the available section, import or export jobs, install it. Okay. And at that point, you will also get the documentation. Just use that. That's the first thing. Okay. That's a very old way of doing it. Now the new way is there is no need for you to import or export any job. You have Jenkins file with you. Right? Fine. We have to work on GUI only. There is a CLI for Jenkins? There is also a CLI and an API for Jenkins. There is also a CLI and there is also an API for Jenkins. So for example, if you want to control Jenkins from some other device or some other code, you will be using the API. if you want to connect to the Jenkins from command line, you will be using a CLI. Okay, we'll be using that in on a lighter note on some use case. Okay, so you have both. You have CLI and also you have REST API. So you can use Jenkins from other code as well as other machine CLI. You have to connect to this machine and then use the CLI. Okay. How to know which? Okay. How to know which? Let me simplify the question. How to select for test results JUnit? That is what your dev team will tell, right? Where your test results are and what are the test results which they want to see. Okay, so that's the most easiest stuff. You will go and ask your dev team or the test team what are the results which they want to see, or where are their results and which artifacts they want to see. Okay, that is not our decision. That is not something which we decide. That is something which your dev decides. Okay, that's the packaging of your application. How to create a Jenkins log server? Jenkins log server, what do you mean by that? Logs of Jenkins to other server? Don't combine what Jenkins log server ante adu kotta server anukunta. Okay, so in the Jenkins home directory, have we seen any folder called as logs? Yes. So copy or whatever contents of that logs, move it to either a syslog server or Elasticsearch or any log monitoring solution. That's it. That's how you move logs. Fine. Most of the people are asking interview have set CI/CD pipeline. So if I am not wrong, whatever done today is a CI pipeline, right? Yes, sir. I am able to clone the GitHub project. I think he was the same person who was getting some error with git clone, right? Guys, please do write to the Qt DevOps man, and whenever you are sending any question, this is a common note to all of you. Write everything. Okay, tell your GitHub path. Okay, ensure others have access on it, and just tell what is your problem. And if required, they will basically write you a mail and share your system to understand the issue. Right? Fine. Yeah. Murli, it is pipeline. Is there a tutorial to use Jenkins API? Why do you want a tutorial? If you are a developer, you should know how to use a REST API already. So just click on the REST API. This is a remote API. Okay. Fine. You have all of your APIs. Click over here. There is already decent amount of stuff in that. Okay. So for any developer, he should know how to use the REST APIs, right? Because every language has a different approach of looking at it. If you are a tester, and if you don't know about API testing, find out how to do that. Okay, you can use tools like SOAP UI, Fiddler, and there is one more thing, Postman, to really test what it is. Okay, fine. So in the classroom, are there any other questions? Yes. Can you add what? Git credentials also? Yes, you can add, because whenever you are generating, my credentials were none. Whenever I was using the pipeline syntax, the credentials were none. Add a credential and then you can use it. Right? So if you have a username and a password, it makes sense to use something called a Jenkins. There is something called as global credentials. Create a global credential and refer the name over here. That's a better way. If you don't want to show username and password directly, that's the way you use it. Yeah. Fine. Any other questions? Yes. Pipeline configuration. I've told where the Jenkins file is. Yeah. I think I was faster. Yeah. I don't wait for the people to make a note of what I am doing. Yeah. Yeah, I know that. I know that. But don't worry about the steps. Generally, don't what do you say? see where I am clicking, because that you will easily be able to make out. All right, fine. But three ways which you have to make a note if you really had to make note is freestyle, pipeline, and pipeline from SCM. Pipeline from SCM. These are the only 3 points. And then Google for it, you will find hell lot of information. నేను క్లాస్ లో మాట్లాడిన దానికన్నా ఎక్కువ ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ దొరుకుతుంది. Right? Okay. Now, since we were able to build in all these 3 ways, what is the next thing which we are supposed to do? The next thing which you have to think is about code quality. About code quality and storing our artifacts. In this case, what was an artifact? Gameoflife.war. Storing that artifact in some server so that all the builds are present over there, and whenever you want to make a customer release, you will be taking from there. Make sense? Right? So the next step is whatever we have built it right now, okay, we want to do quality checks. And basically the next thing is to use something like what is it, to move this whatever you have built it to some server, so that whenever you want to make a customer release on any specific version, you can make it. So artifacts moving to the other external repository and checking the quality of the code. And to check the quality of the code, we are going to use a tool called as SonarQube. SonarQube. And to copy artifacts into, okay, whatever we have built it into the other server, we will be using something called as JFrog or Artifactory. Both are same. Both are from the same organization. If you are using a free version, we call it as JFrog. The paid version, if I'm not wrong, we call it as Artifactory. Okay, so we have done this, but basically we have to take the build next few steps so that we measure also quality of it. Right? So fine. How do I check the quality of the code? Okay, so what are the different things which are present there? So for that, we would be looking at SonarQube, right? And version management or repository management we'll be looking at, or artifact management we'll be looking at Artifactory. And are these the only tools? Are there not any other tools? There are many. So for checking the code quality in Java, there is a specific project which is open source. They call it as Jacoco. Why no name like that, I don't know. Okay, fine. In Microsoft, do you have Microsoft analysis? Microsoft analysis, and there is other name. MSA is what they call it as. Okay, they have their own rules for that. So the tools might change, but whatever I'm trying to tell in the class are most heavily used tools. Okay, but tomorrow in your office they might say altogether a different stuff. And is Artifactory the only repository management? No, you have Nexus. You have Nexus, right? So purpose is same, tools might change. Tomorrow there might be one better tool which is both better than Nexus and Artifactory, and we are supposed to, probably we might want to use it, right? So let us just look at our pipeline now. Okay, I'll not be really drawing it, but I think we know the steps right now, because we have done this, we have been doing this from 3 days if I'm not wrong. So SCM, the git clone part, and then build and package. In this case, since we were using Java, we are using MVN package over here. Okay, and then I'll write test results first. Okay, the JUnit test results which we have done, and artifacts. Till now we were showing the artifacts in the same Jenkins server. Now what we want to do is we want to push artifacts into external server, okay, meant for artifact management. This is one step which we need to add. And okay, code quality check application for code quality and show reports. So for this Sonar Cube, and for this Artifactory. Okay, this is your CI pipeline. CI, you don't do anything beyond this. Okay, we take the work that is done by multiple people, combine it, and see what we are doing. We are building and packaging. We are executing unit tests. We are doing code quality checks. Okay, and we are publishing whatever we have built into some repository server. So CI is not beyond this, but it is just not CI. We also need to do continuous delivery. Okay, so let me write something like delivery. In this delivery, what you do now? Deploy application to some server. What that sum is, you will define in your Jenkins job. Okay, so what are the different tools which I can use over here? Simple shell script. Okay, you might have written a shell script which will take your deployment to the production server. You can use that. You can use Ansible. You can use basically Chef. You can use Terraform, and you can use Packer. Okay, if you are adding any of these to one more to your Jenkins job, okay, it becomes a CD pipeline. But remember, CI and CD we don't usually put in the same job. CI ni CD ni okay job lo bettam. So you might write something like game of life day build, and then you might have one more job which is called as game of life deploy. So game of life deploy is responsible for deploying when you give the var file, and you give what is your server. Okay, it basically what we will do is once we finish pushing the artifacts to the server, then we will call one more job. So from one job you will be calling other job. So the calling job will become an upstream job, and the project which is called as a downstream job. Make sense? The job which calls the other job, the calling job is upstream, and the job which is called as downstream. These are all terminologies. All right. So now what I will do is I'll show you how to make a project upstream or downstream. All right. So fine. Okay. So are you using build triggers? You can say build after the projects are built, and then you can say that the project which I want to use is okay. Trigger only the build is stable. If the build is also unstable, even if the build fails, is your choice. When do you want to deal? So if you are doing a cleanup job, you will also execute irrespective of the build is unstable, build fails also. But if it is deployment, you will do only when the build is successful. So that is your choice. All right. Now let me come over here, and then just to make it pass, I'll just write echo hi. It's okay, right? Yeah. Save this. Back to the dashboard. Game of life day builds. Okay. Let me show it from here because it would be visual. So I'm doing build now. Is the build executed? Yes. So are you seeing? Oh, pipeline UA is fine. Game of life day builds, and let us see what would happen after that. Is the test running? Are you seeing something blinking on test? So it would be automatically called. Okay. But the problem is here it was simple. Two jobs you have called, but when a job calls the other job, it needs to pass some information. It needs to pass probably where is your artifactory link. It needs to pass some of the other informations. So how can we do that in Jenkins? Okay. So these are all the steps. Okay. It is just not calling other job. If it is just calling other job, it is very simple. You have to just say, yeah, this project depends on some other project, or you can go to the project and say that in the post build steps, call one more project, call one more job. But that is just not it. You have to pass some information from one job to other job. So how can I pass information from one job to other job? So for that, what we would be looking at is, when you click on configure project, are you seeing this project is parameterized? And then we can create, we will be creating the parameters. In here, the parameter could be Artifactory URL, your server's IP address, whatever it is. And then you will be using these parameters in your scripts. So how to create parameters in the Jenkins stuff? So let me create a parameter. Okay, let me use a very simple string parameter, and I will call it as message. Okay, default value is hi. Okay, so how to use the script over here? Okay, how to use that message over here? I've created a variable called as message. The value of it is hi. Okay, so you have to basically find out how to use it. Okay, so these are already existing variables. Apart from all the stuffs which you see, these are all already existing variables which Jenkins will give. So that is an area which we need to explore. So let us assume that I use this syntax. I don't remember it, so let me write message. Okay, save, build with parameters, build, and let me go to the third project, console output. What is it printing? It is not printing anything because my expression was wrong. Try to find out, we need to find out what is the right way of doing it. But here there is one issue. The only thing when you use this parameter is this expression changes from Windows and Linux. So if you are running this Jenkins job on a Windows, the expression is different from expression what you write in Linux. So how do you deal with that parameter so that you can pass some information across jobs? And then Artifactory and SonarQube. Okay, and then one simple shell script which will deploy onto a, which will copy our war file. I am writing a shell script over there in this classroom, but for the people who have finished Ansible or Chef, I would expect you to write the Ansible script there. So you'll be calling your playbook, or you'll be calling your Chef client. That is what you do. But in this classroom, I'm not expecting people to know Chef or Ansible to understand this. So I'll be using a plain shell script where I'll be using SCP steps and probably SSH and log in into the machine and then do something like that. But you people, I would expect you to use Ansible at least. Ansible. Okay. And I know some of the companies, what they do is with every build step, they also use Packer because they can get an image. So you should be able to visualize that part. Okay. So we have, as I have taken the Jenkins image, right, where there was no need for me to install Jenkins, and I have just said my AMIs Jenkins launch. I was getting a machine with Jenkins. So that images can be created by a tool called as Packer. So there are some companies which basically don't deploy applications, they deploy images. So for them in the build step, they might not be creating a server, they might be creating an image. So there you might use Packer. So you can take all of your wild combinations. As a delivery, I'll be using a shell script, but I would expect the people who know Ansible or Chef or Terraform or Packer to use the respective tools. Fine. Yes. So I would not be starting on Artifactory because the time might not be sufficient for me to start it. So tomorrow I'll start it with SonarQube. I'll be executing some tests on SonarQube, and then basically Artifactory. Okay, and then we'll be from our Jenkins, this game of life, we will be running through a quality check, and then we'll be running through basically or sending this to a server which is called as an Artifactory server. So these are the two steps which are remaining. Okay, and the parameterization part, and after that we need to deal with one .NET project also. one .NET project also. Okay, so we have a lot of stuff to be covered. So after that, we need to deploy these kind of projects to cloud also using cloud DevOps tool, not Jenkins. We'll be using different tools there. So every cloud has its own set of CA or CD tools. So if I had to do the same stuff on AWS cloud, what will I use? And if I have to use, you can use Jenkins by the way, but I'm trying to tell what are the proprietary tools which these guys have. So we'll be using combination of Jenkins and those tools to achieve our build pipeline onto the cloud as well, right? So lot of things to be covered, and whether you are practicing or not is not my headache. So please take responsibility of your careers. It is not mine. Okay, మీరు నేను ప్రాక్టీస్ సెషన్ ఈసారి పెట్టే టైం ఉండకపోవచ్చు నాకు, because we have a hell lot of syllabus, or else I can skip the cloud and we can have a practice session. So I want to cover more content, but if you are not practicing it, and if I find you are not practicing it, I will not be covering that content, because anyway it is not promised. మన సిలబస్ లో ఎక్కడ క్లౌడ్ డెవాప్స్ అని లేదు. సో ఈవెన్ లీగల్లీ ఐఎమ్ రైట్. Okay, so it depends on your stuff. If you are doing, I will cover cloud DevOps, or I will tell cloud DevOps only to the cloud people, not to non-cloud people. That's your commitment will help me in deciding whether to cover cloud DevOps here or in the AWS class. In the AWS class, I have to tell it. There is no option. All right. So please do it so that we have things to be done faster. Okay, and Java, .NET, and I'll be sharing you some other pipelines also, and that pipelines please do it on your own. So for example, Node.js pipeline, how do you do that? So there you will be using something called as npm pack. You will get a tar file, and then you will be using npm install. So that I know because I do it. Okay, for you, you can Google it, right? And I have not used Gradle tool. So for example, if you want to, we have used MVN, right? So if you want to use, if your company is using a tool called as Gradle, let us assume that it is using Gradle now. Okay, సార్ గ్రాడల్ మా కంపెనీలో గ్రాడల్ వాడుతున్నారు, వాడితే వాడారు, మనకేమైనా వాట్ ఈస్ దేర్ విత్ గ్రాడల్? వాట్ ఈస్ దట్ we want build and packaging. Build and packaging in MVN is MVN package. So we have to find out what is that in Gradle which will do the same thing. So MVN versus there will be a table which compares this. Man, ant is a joke. Ant I will not even speak about. So there will be some file where you have to give Gradle task -- all. If you want to do a specific task, see what is MVN compile in Gradle. Be shameless to ask the same thing to the Google. It will answer you. MVN compile ni Gradle lo emantaru. Just do the same. So it is not a tool at all. So don't focus on tools too much. We want to compile, we want to package, we want a war file. Because that war file we want to take it to the Artifactory server. In Maven it is MVN package. If you are using ant, what is the command? If you are using Gradle, what is the command? That's it, right? So if you are using .NET, in the place of Maven, what is that you would use, and what is the command line for that? In the place of Maven, you might be using ms build. So ms build, and what is the command, and what will you get? How do you archive it? Done. Same thing for Node, same thing for Python, and same thing for any language. Same thing for something like Swift, which is a very new programming language, or Go, which is from Google. So don't worry on the tools too much. Worry on the process. Worry on the steps why we are doing this. Okay, సార్ గ్రాడిల్లో కంపైల్ ఎలా చేద్దాం నాకు తెలియదు, అవసరం తెలుసుకోవాల్సిన అవసరం కూడా లేదు. ఓకే, బట్ బిఫోర్ గోయింగ్ టు ద ఇంటర్వ్యూ, జస్ట్ మేక్ ఎ సింపుల్ కంపారిజన్స్ MVN versus Gradle. If the Gradle is found in the JD, if not, you can shamelessly admit that I know only Maven. I've been building only Maven projects, and there is no harm with that also. Okay, even the person who is taking the interview knows if you know Maven, you can easily work on Gradle. All right, that's how it is. Fine. So whether me covering the cloud DevOps or not depends on how you are approaching to the solution. So because మీకు ఎలా తెలుస్తుంది అని అడిగాను అనుకోండి, రేపు నేను చేసేటప్పుడు నువ్వు అడుగుతాను కదా, ఐ విల్ కమ్ టు నో ద ఇంటరాక్షన్. ఇవాళ అయితే బాగా ఆశ్చర్యంగా చూశారు, 2 రోజులు సెలవులు వచ్చినాయి కదా. ఓకే, సో డోంట్ డూ దట్. డూ ఇట్. ఇట్ ఈస్ నాట్ మై కెరియర్. నేను ఇది ఐఎమ్ డూయింగ్ దిస్ ఫ్రమ్ ఏజెస్. if I do it one more time, it will not create any benefit to my career. So it is your career, please work hard on it. Okay, so I'm seeing only few people have that motivation. Other people get motivation after they get screwed in the ఇంటర్వ్యూలో క్వశ్చన్లు అడిగితే అప్పుడు చెప్పలేనప్పుడు అప్పుడు అప్పుడు గుర్తొస్తుంది. Probably you might be wasting time. So be responsible. And I'm telling that if you're not good at Linux and if you're not good at DevOps before going to the interview, your first round itself might be a failure. Sir, I'm very good at Docker, but before Docker, Linux questions are being asked. Before Docker, the Jenkins questions are being asked. So that's how it is. That's what the reality is. Please focus on these things. Very important. Right? Fine. Can you please share the case studies? Yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that. Okay, but for now I want to make it look very simple. I don't want to show a huge thing to you. Okay, I have some around 6 or 7 case studies already there. I'm not sharing it in the classroom because they look complicated. First, let us not look at CA and CD with complications. Let us look at it in a simpler point of view, and then we can basically get into this. Right? So the case studies I'll be giving you end of this Jenkins, or probably on a Friday this weekend. Till that, let us focus on the content which we need to cover. Okay, so yeah, one more thing which I forgot to tell in this is we need to also look at distributed Jenkins. So where you have multiple Jenkins slaves, or which are called as nodes now. It was called as slaves earlier. So we also need to look at that. So we have a hell lot of things to be completed. If you are not on par with what I'm doing, or if you find it is too much fast, then we can slow down on a content. Okay, I'm okay with it. అంటే ఎక్కువ చెప్పేసి ఏమి రాకపోవటం కన్నా తక్కువ మాట్లాడుకోవడం సుఖం అన్నది నా అభిప్రాయం. Okay, so that's your choice. It depends on how you reciprocate to what is happening in the classroom. So if some of you find it fast, okay, if you are in the classroom, please what you can do is sit with someone. Okay, sit with someone who is working and see what is that you can. The knowledge grows only by sharing, right? So please do that. Okay, if you have concerns over fast, yeah, what we can do is we can do classes over the weekend also, right? That's what I can do. How to configure Maven and Jenkins install 404 path, then how to install. Oh, serious problem, right? So Maven path, just installing Maven on whatever system which you are installing. Let us assume that you are installing on Ubuntu. So installing Maven on Ubuntu, Google Giant, and URL లో హైఫన్ మిస్ అవుతుందా? అది ఒకసారి ఆయనకి మెయిల్లో రాసిండే సరిపోద్దిగా. యా యా ఇట్స్ ఓకే, అవి చేస్తేనే వస్తాయిలేండి, ఉండి తప్పు. యా గూగుల్ చేసి దొరుకుతుంది. ఎనీ మిస్టేక్ వెన్ ఎవర్ యూ గెట్, డోంట్ ట్రై టు స్టాప్ దర్. Try to see what is the error and try to search it in Google. So probably what there are many people have tried it. They are saying that there is some missing hyphen around when you copy that URL. Screenshots lo unda? Okay, whatever it is, I don't look at those kind of documentation. నాకు అందునే తెలియదు. I'm sorry about it. Fine. So let us meet tomorrow. Yeah. Can you please be a bit slow? Yeah, I think I can do that. But Jenkins might be extended. If you are okay with that, I can. So I don't have a problem of going slow or fast. Okay. So probably we might need to stretch a bit, or we might need to. So whatever time is extra, we have to cut it down somewhere, right? That's the whole point. Yeah. Fine then. We can do that. Okay. So tomorrow, what are we going to discuss? Code quality and artifactory. Right? Yes. Yeah. Thanks.